Greetings and welcome to the Pampering Myself Podcast. I'm your host, Pam Jones, aka Jonesy. Our mission is to empower women in every facet of life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Join us as we explore self-care, personal growth, and holistic wellness, inspiring you to embrace your journey and nurture your inner strength. So grab your favorite snack or beverage, snuggle up in your favorite chair, and relax, because every woman deserves a little pampering. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Pampering Myself Podcast, where we sip tea, share truths, and laugh at the kind of life lessons you can only learn by actually living through them. And that's the truth. Today we're talking about self-empowerment, but not the surface level, like read a quote on Instagram and now I'm transformed kind. We're talking about deep, lived-in kind, the kind that shows up in your bones, in your choices, in the way you carry yourself after life has put you through the ringer, and you come out with better hair and a stronger walk. I'm speaking especially to my ladies over 40. We've been tested. We've raised kids. We may have buried our parents. We've reinvented ourselves. We've started over when we didn't think we could. We've loved deeply. We've lost hard. And we've learned how to pick ourselves back up. Sometimes in heels, sometimes in sneakers, sometimes in those fuzzy slippers you've had since 1998. And here's the thing, even with all that wisdom, life can still make us forget the power we carry. Not because it's gone, but because we buried it under everyone else's need. Endless responsibilities and the day-to-day hustle of just keeping life moving. I'm talking to somebody today. Yes, I am, and I'm even talking to myself. I'm not here to tell you who to be. I'm not here to remind you, or I am here to remind you who you already are, because your power is still in you. It hasn't disappeared. It's just waiting for you to pick it up again. And after today, you're going to grant yourself permission to show up and be you. We're going to laugh, reflect, and I'm going to share some personal stories. Some funny, some raw, because storytelling is how women like us pass wisdom down. You'll hear truths I learned the hard way, and I'll give you some practical ways to bring your power forward in everyday life. And by the time we're done, I don't want you feeling your power. I want you reclaiming it, protecting it, and using it in ways that serve you. So grab your tea, your coffee, or your grown woman juice, whatever that may be for you. This is not a quick episode you rush through. We're going to settle in, take our time, and let this one sink in. Now, Saturdays in my world were my do everything days. Maybe you can relate, especially if you have a 9 to 5 or other responsibilities that consume your time. So my Saturdays would look something like this. Laundry, check. Grocery shopping, check. Clean the house, check. And on occasion, I do a little shopping for myself or the household. In other words, something other than groceries, check. And maybe I'd partake in some social activities, check. Or run my daughter around from swimming lessons to Girl Scout meetings or karate class, check. Visit with family and friends, check. Nothing unique about me. Things we all do, right? My goodness, now that I said it out loud, that's a lot to try and cram in on a Saturday. Well, sometimes it had to spill over until Sunday. But can you imagine your whole weekend when you work a 9 to 5? That might be what the weekend looks like for you. So then there were some added things. I spent many years taking classes toward my degrees. I joined multiple social groups and organizations, each with their own list of responsibilities. Need I say, all while caring for my family, my husband, my daughter, my mother-in-law, and whoever else needed my attention. Back then, I didn't realize I was becoming the family matriarch. But that's a story for another time. Don't get me wrong, I do it all over again in a heartbeat. But as time went on, I realized I had no time for myself. I woke up tired and exhausted and went to bed tired and exhausted. And I'm not talking about I stayed up late watching Netflix tired. I'm talking about that bone deep tired. The kind of tired where you get up in the morning, get dressed for work, drive halfway before you realize it's Saturday. And I don't work my 9 to 5 on Saturdays. How did life get like this? This full, when you don't even know whether you're coming or going. I turned around, went back home to regroup that day, and as I was changing my clothes, I looked in the mirror, and the woman looking back at me, I didn't know who she was. Sure, she had my eyes, my smile lines, the mold on my cheeks, but she looked dim. Looked like someone had turned down her brightness. And here's the thing, I'm not usually a stare at myself in the mirror kind of person, but that morning, I leaned in the mirror and took a long, hard look. And I said out loud, who are you? It wasn't that I didn't love myself. It wasn't even that I'd been through some giant catastrophe. It was a slow, sneaky way I'd been letting pieces of myself go over time. Has that ever happened to you? See, when you're younger, you walk into rooms like you own the air in them. Somewhere along the way, I started asking permissions to exist in my own life. I thought back to the younger me, the one that could say no without rehearsing an excuse, the one that didn't water herself down so other people could feel more comfortable. And then I thought about how I traded that version of me for routine, for predictability, for being responsible. But isn't that what we're supposed to do? I don't know if it was the lighting in that bathroom or the fact that I had felt overwhelmed. I just know something had to change, and it had to change quick. Not everything. I wasn't packing a bag to go find myself on the mountaintop. I was going to start small. And so I did. Step 1, I stopped saying yes to things I didn't want to do. And when people would ask why, I didn't explain myself into exhaustion. No became a complete sentence. But if it was something I wanted to do or wanted to consider, I would let them know, give me some time to think about it. Because I was good at saying yes and not fully understanding the commitment. Step 2, I learned to take 30 minutes 2 to 3 times a day that belonged only to me, where I surrounded myself with scented candles and a warm bubble bath in the evening. Some days I read, some days I journaled, some days I just sat on the couch and stared out the window, or whatever I could find, some me time. Step 3, I decided to stop coloring my hair. Now, that was a big one for me. Ladies, you know how we feel about our hair. Well, gray hair is a family trait. And the first sign that I realized that I had inherited that trait was at 17 years old. Of course, I was resistant. It appeared as a 2-inch patch right in the front of my head, which is when I started dyeing it. That turned into a nightmare. I was 3 to 4 different colors, and that, I'm telling you, that gray was stubborn. And at one point, I think somewhere between 35 and 40, I decided it won, because the more color or time I tried to cover it up, the more colors it became. Now, when I learned to embrace it, it wasn't easy. At first, it felt a little awkward, like I was trying to fake confidence I hadn't quite found yet. My hair became a topic of conversation everywhere I went, and with everybody who was bold enough to ask. But it was good. I can't tell you how many compliments I received as it was coming in, or how many people asked me, "Is that your real color?" I even had co-workers who bet that I was dyeing my hair. Now, I recently learned over the years that that's a thing, but back then, believe me, it wasn't. One day, a young cashier said, "Oh, I love your look. It's so confident." And I thought, honey, if you only knew, I'm still figuring it out. But it was proof the energy you put out really does circle back to you. And that's when I realized I never actually lost my power. I just forgot to use it. Here's something nobody tells you. Power isn't something people can take. It's not your earrings that mysteriously disappear when your cousin visits. It's not your parking spot that someone swipes at the grocery store. Power is yours. What happens is we set it down. We set it down to make other people feel comfortable. We set it down because we don't want to be too much. We set it down because someone made us feel like our shine was selfish. And the longer it's sitting there, the easier it is to forget where you left it. Self-empowerment isn't about inventing a new you. It's about picking up what's already yours and using it without apology. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a woman, I'll call her Angela, who was brilliant. She had ideas that could change the direction of a whole project, but she rarely spoke up in meetings. And one day I asked her why. And she shrugged her shoulders and said, "It's just easier to let them do their thing." And most times I think we can all agree that's true. Now, Angela wasn't lacking ideas. What she was lacking was permission. Not from them, but from herself. Somewhere along the way, she decided her thoughts were optional. And optional eventually turned into invisible. Ladies, that's what happened when we set our power down. We convince ourselves that our voice isn't needed, that our opinions are extra, that someone else will say it better. But here's the truth. The way you say it might be exactly the way someone needs to hear it. Think about the moments when you handed over your power without realizing it. Maybe it's when you said yes to hosting Thanksgiving, even though you were exhausted because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. Maybe it's when you stayed quiet in a conversation because you didn't want to rock the boat, even though the boat needed rocking. Maybe it's when you stopped dressing the way you love because someone made a comment about it being too young, too bold. These moments add up. They don't feel like much at the time, but they slowly chip away at how you see yourself. Now here's the good news. Power is like a favorite song. Even if you haven't played it in years, it's still there. You just have to turn up the volume. I say start small. Say no without offering an entire TED Talk on why you're saying no. Speak up in a room where you normally stay quiet. Do something just because you want to. No practical reason, no justification. Every time you do it, you're flexing that muscle again. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. All right, so let's do something together. I want you to think about the last time you felt totally powerful. Close your eyes if you can and think about it. Where were you? At home? In a park? Maybe at a concert? Maybe at work? What were you doing? Something you enjoy? Maybe nothing at all. Riding a bike? Who was there? Were you alone or with someone? And what were you wearing? Were you dressed up, dressed down, in a robe? What was the look on your face? Happy, surprised, smiling. Now think about the energy of that moment. Was it bold? Was it calm confidence? Was it playful and light? But here's the important question. What's the one thing from that moment you can bring into this week? So you might want to go back through this podcast and write those questions down, or even pause it and back it up and write those questions and go through them truthfully. It could be an outfit, the music you were listening to, the way you carried yourself, the decision you made without guessing. Write it down, commit to it. And when you do it this week, say to yourself, this is me in my power. Now, pre-COVID, I used to go to a full-service spa at least once or twice a year with a friend of mine. And we would spend about 3 or 4 hours there. We'd have lunch. And afterwards, we put a few dollars in the slot machine. Yeah, you guessed it. It was at a casino. And the robes that they gave us in the spa, believe it or not, was my power. Being in that spa felt like power, so much so that having that robe on, I just had to have it. So I got my husband to purchase me one from the store, and I use it as a means of empowering me sometimes when I'm at home. Because here's why reclaiming your power matters. Because the world will not automatically make space for you. You have to step into it yourself. And women over 40 are often underestimated in the workplace, in relationships, even in our own families. People start treating you like your best years are behind you. But here's what I know. A woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, or above, with life experience, resilience, and a clear sense of who she is one of the most powerful forces walking the planet. When you reclaim your power, you're not just doing it for you. You're showing the younger women in your life what's possible. You're showing your friends it's okay to evolve. You're showing yourself you're not done yet. So here's your challenge for the week. Do one thing that makes you feel powerful. Just one. It doesn't have to be big. It could be wearing that outfit you've been saving for a special occasion. Decide Tuesday's the special occasion. saying no to something without explaining why. Try something you've always wanted to do but kept putting off. When you do it, notice how it feels. Let that feeling remind you, I never lost my power. I just decided to use it again. As we close this episode, remember, you are bold, you are brilliant, you are still becoming. And always, don't forget to pamper yourself. Please tune in next month for a discussion on self-alignment, living in harmony with your values and purpose. Until then, have a blessed week. Goodbye.